Summer in the Ice Age may have been busier than winter. Imagine being born on the edge of Europe 20,000 years ago. You might think the most terrifying thing is the long winter night, the wind, the snow, the hunger. But the season that decides whether you survive until next year may not be winter at all. It may be summer, because summer is not rest. Summer is a countdown. The moment the sun returns, frozen ground begins to soften. Rivers swell with meltwater. Herds begin to move. Plants push through the soil for a brief and fragile moment. The world opens like a door, and you and your people must prepare for an entire year before that door closes again. The strange question, when? We picture the Ice Age. We usually picture white ice sheets, mammoths, humans wrapped in fur, holding spears in the snow. But the first surprise is this. The Ice Age was not ice everywhere. All the time, huge ice sheets covered vast regions of northern North America and northern Europe. Sea levels fell. Grasslands, tundra, river valleys, and sparse forests shifted across the map. But at the edges of the ice, in valleys, foothills, coastal refuges, and southern landscapes, summer still arrived. It was short. It was cold. It was unstable. But it existed. And for Paleolithic humans, summer was not a vacation. No beaches. No cold drinks. No weekend without an alarm. Summer meant movement. Reindeer, wild horses, bison, and other large animals followed seasonal routes. Fish entered rivers. Birds nested. Berries ripened. Some roots became easier to dig. Flint outcrops, hidden or frozen for months, could be reached again. Small groups that had survived the winter apart might meet again when food became more available. So a simple question opens into something much larger. What did Ice Age humans do in summer? The answer is not just hunt and gather. What they did in summer contained nearly every early shape of civilization. Movement, cooperation, storage, exchange, courtship, teaching, tool repair, route memory, information sharing, judging who could be trusted, deciding whether a child would still be alive when the next winter came. Summer was not a break from survival. It was survival compressed into a season. The hidden machinery of summer. Scientists who study seasonal life in the Paleolithic often depend on tiny clues. Animal teeth. For example, teeth grow in layers, a little like tree rings. By studying those layers, researchers can sometimes estimate the season in which an animal died. If many animals at a site appear to have been killed in summer or autumn, that place may not have been a year-round home. It may have been a seasonal camp. In simple terms, humans were not wandering randomly. They were following energy. This is seasonal mobility among hunter-gatherers. It sounds like drifting, but it is closer to a living map. In winter, people may have stayed in smaller groups, closer to safer shelters, fuel, stored food, and familiar terrain. In summer, they could expand. They could travel to high ground for stone, move to rivers for fish, follow open corridors where herds passed through, gather plants that only appeared for a short time. This movement was not romantic. It was energy management. A human body cannot hibernate like a bear. It cannot rely only on speed and teeth like a wolf. Humans had to turn short seasons into long-term safety. They did this with tools, with memory, and with other people. That is why summer mattered so much. To us, summer is a period of time. To an Ice Age group, summer was a warehouse. Meat had to be processed quickly. Fat had to be saved. Bones could become needles, hooks, ornaments, tools, or even fuel. Hides had to be scraped, stretched, smoked, softened, and sewn. Stone tools had to be reshaped. Old spear points had to be replaced. Children had to learn which berries were food and which could make them sick. Young hunters had to practice tracking and coordinated hunting before the real danger of winter returned. This was the central Logi, Sea of Ice Age summer. Not enjoying warmth. Using warmth. Sunlight was not a gift. Sunlight was a deadline. And summer itself could be dangerous. Meltwater could make rivers rise suddenly. Wetlands could swallow ankles. Meat could spoil. More animals moving also meant more predators. Moving. Abundance was not safety. Abundance was risk in a different form. So Ice Age humans likely did not treat summer as leisure. They treated it as an open window. While the window was open, everything had to be done. When animals were available, meat was processed. When stone was exposed, tools were made. When groups met, information was exchanged. When children could travel farther, they learned the land. When elders could still speak, they repeated routes remembered from earlier generations. In a world without writing, memory was a map. In a world without banks, fat, hides, tools, and reliable relationships were savings. One ordinary summer life. Imagine a teenage boy. Let us call him Aron. He was born in a river valley south of the ice. In winter, he and perhaps 24 others crowd near a rock shelter. The fire cannot go out. Wind slips through cracks in the stone. At night, the distant cry of wolves makes everyone go still. But now it is summer. The days are longer. The river is wider. Meltwater carries stones and branches down from higher ground. Aron walks with his mother to gather roots. He is not simply digging. He is learning. Which leaves mark F. Ud. Which similar-looking plant will twist the stomach. His mother does not give a lecture. She points. Breaks the root open. Lets him smell it. Taste a little. Spit it out. Then find another one by himself. Farther away. Adults are processing a wild horse. Not everyone helped kill the animal. Some drove it. Some waited in ambush. Some watched children. Some cut the meat into pieces that could be carried. Some searched for wood dry enough to keep smoke moving over the meat. In this world, work is not an individual job title. Work is the breathing pattern of the group. Aron's grandmother sits beside the fire with a bone needle. Her fingers are bent with age, but she still knows where each stitch should go. The garment she is repairing may not be for today. It is for 4 months from now, for the first cold wind that finds its way into the shelter. Nearby, a few people from another group have arrived. They carry flint of a different color. They bring news about herds moving to the north. When evening comes, the firelight grows bright. People exchange tools. They exchange information about possible partners. They exchange news of births, deaths, broken routes, flooded crossings, and whether a certain rock shelter still has bears in it. This may have been one of the most important parts of Ice Age summer. Humans met humans again. In winter, isolated small groups are vulnerable. Genes narrow. Information grows old. Risk increases. Summer gatherings reconnected the network. This was not social life in the modern sense. It was survival infrastructure. If you know more people, you may know more routes. If you know more routes, you may survive a failed food year. If more people know your child, that child is not only yours. The child belongs, in some sense, to the memory of the group. That sounds gentle, but it is deeply practical. Across human evolution, care was never just an emotional luxury. Care was technology. And archaeology gives us indirect traces of that technology. Archaeologists cannot usually see and embrace. They cannot watch a mother teach a child a route. What remains in the ground is more modest. Stone flakes, bones, ash, burned earth. But these traces still speak. Repeated layers of ash can suggest that people returned to a place. Flint from distant sources can suggest movement or exchange. Carefully shaped bone needles suggest clothing more complex than a hide thrown over the shoulders. This mat, RS. In the Ice Age, clothing was not fashion. Clothing was a second skin. And summer was when that second skin could be made. You do not wait for the blizzard to begin before scraping hides, piercing holes, and sewing seams. You must imagine the future cold while the sun is still above you. Ancient summer and modern summer. Why did humans live this way? Because their world was radically uncertain. Animals did not appear on schedule. Weather did not obey plans. A single wrong judgment could leave the group short of food when winter came. So they had to watch the season. Remember terrain. Cooperate. Adjust personal desire to group RHY. THM. Modern life is completely different. We have tamed seasonality. Winter has heating. Summer has air conditioning. Strawberries can appear in supermarkets almost all year. Refrigerators mean meat no longer depends on smoke, ice, or frozen ground. Navigation systems mean routes do not have to survive only in the memory of elders. This is not decline. It is a massive victory of civilization. More children survive. Disease is easier to treat. Daily life no longer has to be spent searching for food. But here is the more interesting point. Civilization solved many ancient problems. Yet some ancient capacities have become quiet. We no longer need to remember which river floods in summer. But we still need to know who can be trusted. We no longer have to smoke meat as a whole group before winter. But we still need to prepare resources before a crisis. We no longer sit around a fire trading news about herds. But we gather around screens, exchanging warnings, fears, advice, and comfort. The tools have changed. The deep human response to uncertainty has not disappeared. Why do modern people long for summer? Why do we feel drawn to campsites, rivers, mountains, coastlines, and outdoor meals? Part of the answer is culture, tourism, school calendars, urban fatigue. But perhaps, beneath all of that, there is also an older bodily memory. When daylight grows longer, humans want to move. When the air warms, humans want to gather. When food is abundant, humans want to share. When children are out of school, families reorganize time. Friends meeting on a summer evening may be echoing something ancient. Small groups around a fire, confirming that they are still alive to one another. Of course, modern behavior cannot be reduced to ancient instinct. Human society is far too complex for that. But our sensitivity to season, gathering, and safety reminds us of something important. Civilization did not erase our past. It hid that past inside new habits. What summer really means. So what did humans do in summer during the Ice Age? They traveled. They hunted. They fished. They gathered plants. They processed hides. They repaired weapons. They stored food. They exchanged stone. They told route stories. They taught children what the world could do to them. They prepared for scarcity during a brief moment of abundance. But if we see only these actions, we miss the deeper answer. Ice Age summer was the moment when human beings turned the rhythm of nature into social order. Animals followed food. Plants followed light. Humans followed resources too. But they also followed one another. We did not have the largest teeth. We did not have the thickest fur. We did not have the fastest legs. Our children could not protect themselves for a very long time. And yet that weakness may be one of the reasons human beings became so powerful. It forced us to cooperate. For one child to survive, it might take a mother, a father, a grandmother, siblings, neighbors, hunters, gatherers, storytellers, seamstresses, route keepers, toolmakers, and strangers willing to become temporary allies. Scientists often describe humans as intensely social animals. In plain language, we did not survive because one hero was strong enough. We survived because the network was strong enough. Ice Age summer was when that network was repaired and rewoven. Every migration updated information. Every gathering tested trust. Every stored piece of food was an act of imagination aimed at the future. This may be one of the most extraordinary things about being human. We do not live only in the present. We prepare for winters that have not arrived. We sew clothes for children who are still growing. We remember routes for disasters that have not happened yet. We use the short summer to imagine a more distant season. Perhaps civilization began here. Not with the first city, not with the first farm, but with some cold summer night. Long before history, an elder describes the migration path of the herds to a child. A mother places an edible root in a small hand. A hunter gives extra flint to someone from another group. One small community decides to trust another. Outside, the world remains dangerous. The ice is still immense. Winter will return. But in that moment, humans possess something stronger than teeth. Shared memory, shared labor, shared care. Today we have satellites, refrigerators, antibiotics, and global communication. These are extraordinary tools. But if we look again at humanity's oldest summers, we may notice something. What carried us through the Ice Age was not only fire, not only spears, not only fur and stone. It was the fact that before the cold arrived, someone had already begun preparing warmth for someone else. If we pull the camera even farther back, Ice Age summer stops being just a season. It becomes an ancient rehearsal. Humans were practicing planning, practicing division of labor, practicing sharing, practicing how to turn an invisible future into action in the present. A stitched seam, a strip of dried meat, a remembered valley, an exchange that did not end in betrayal. Small things, almost invisible things. Later, they would become storehouses, roads, villages, agreements, and institutions. Civilization did not arrive all at once. It was answered into existence, generation after generation, during short summers facing long winters. And perhaps that is the quiet truth hidden inside the question. Ice Age humans did not simply survive summer. They used summer to invent the human future.